Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Transforming Windows Workspaces. Today, we'll explore how organizations can simplify cloud workspace migrations, improve user experience, and deliver apps more efficiently with ProfileUnity and FlexApp. I'm Andrew with Liquidware. We're excited to have two of our experts with us today, Jason E. Smith, VP of Alliances and Marketing, and Matt Buyajan, Senior Solutions Architect and SME. Just a quick note before we begin, this session is being recorded and we'll send a copy to all registrants after the webinar. If you have questions as we go, feel free to drop them in the chat box or the Q&A box, and we'll get to them either in text or on camera. And don't forget to stick around until the end of the session where we'll be doing the Aura Ring giveaway. So you'll want to stick to the end for that. With that, I'll hand it over to our presenters to get us started.
Thanks, Andrew. I just reflecting as I was thinking about this, I'd like to say that this is the year of desktop transformation, but it's always the year of desktop transformation seems. Some are busier than others, right? But we've been doing this for a long time. Liquidware has been around since 2016. I was thinking, when did I meet Matt? I met Matt on a conference call when he worked for a big utility in the Northeast, and this was before Liquidware. I probably met Matt 18 years ago, I was thinking.
It was 2000, 2008, 2009?
Yeah, where he saw the solution, ProfileUnity, and saw what it could do at Northeast, at the utility in the Northeast. And yeah, I didn't dream that I'd be working with Matt this many years later, and we worked together. Matt's been with Liquidware since nearly the beginning as well in the first few years, so it's great to be doing this webinar with Matt today, just reflecting a little bit. We do webinars live at Liquidware most of the time. Some companies record them, and you get a little bit of this extra information about the industry, so thank you for reflecting with me today. Transforming Windows workspaces is really an important topic. There's a lot going on in the industry, and we'll reflect on some of those deadlines that are coming up, such as Windows 10 to 11 and other ones. We always look at what Liquidware does really quick. Today we're going to focus on transforming the desktop, and all of our solutions do that, but ProfileUnity and FlexApp are the ones that we're going to focus on today. How we do that to help manage the transformation for users and apps, and with FlexApp, the app portability. So ProfileUnity is far more than just a profile solution. It unifies, and that's where the name comes from. It unifies all parts of Windows that matter to make for a portable Windows experience, to unify that between operating systems, between platforms, and other things. Managing the profile is a small part of what that solution does. It really does full user management and app management. So it takes the place of group policy preferences. Maybe you've lost those capabilities because certain parts of your environment have moved to Azure AD, what they're now calling Entra ID, right? And then it also helps manage user authored data, because that's one of the most important things on the desktop. And it really now more than ever helps manage the application data settings and access to applications, not just FlexApp, which we'll talk about in a moment, but it can help you manage MSIX. It can help you continue to manage AppV while AppV server, and we'll touch on that in a little bit, is end of life. You have a really go-to with ProfileUnity to help keep delivering those AppV packages while you're modernizing them with FlexApp, and it can help manage even ThinApp that was formerly from VMware, and then it can help whitelist and blacklist and help you manage the application settings. So it's full user and app management, well beyond the profile. FlexApp is a core piece of that, because it is how you manage ProfileUnity console, is how you manage the FlexApp experience for users. Once applications are packaged through a packaging console, they're brought in there and they're inventoried, and you can assign them to users on any, purposefully pausing there, any type of Windows desktop. Look across the bottom of the slide, virtual, physical, or cloud. This is the true apps anywhere in the industry, because our packages can even go offline. And you can't really have that with any other technology the way that we provide it, and others really are, we're way out front, and others are copying what we do, even companies that are by head count bigger than us.
That was the most tongue-in-cheek comment I've ever heard you make, Jason.
Right. Well, when you do something right, you be bolder about it, right? And FlexApp really is a leader in the industry. You'll see that in today's demos if you hadn't seen the latest experience. You'll see some innovations that we have in there that we usually haven't shown. Stratosphere UX is the way that you can help manage that user experience from desktop to desktop. We were Dex before Dex was called Dex with user experience. And Stratosphere is a leader in that industry. Gartner has recognized us in the Magic Quadrant as a leader in the industry with that. We go well beyond that with this full digital workspace suite. Command control is one of the newest things that we do. We've been doing that for just 23 months now, and it is rapidly becoming a go-to for organizations to be able to do real PC support in real time. And it complements Stratosphere UX that way, complements other Dex solutions in that way that do deep user experience monitoring and analytics like Stratosphere does. But with command control, you can reach out and touch someone. All these are for free demo and trial. You can get a 15-day trial of any of these in command control. You can get a 5-user license of that, so you can support a small entity of your family or the things like that to be able to do that. So you can find them on the download tab of our website. Focusing back on the big transformation that we talked about today that's happening in the industry, steps that you can make no matter what solutions you use to ensure a seamless transition. And we've been through many of these with our customers. Assess your legacy desktops and applications so you can design the right environment. We do that with Stratosphere UX. You can try to do it by rolling your own with any tools that you have. Maybe you already have Stratosphere UX, but it's going to be a lot easier when you have this comprehensive and cohesive digital workspace suite that we provide. Make sure you don't leave mission critical data behind. Don't forget about the data that people have saved on their endpoints. Yes, they should have been saving to a file share and best practices. Yes, they should have been saving to OneDrive. That doesn't always happen. It's not always synced. Make sure you harvest that data. We can do that automatically with ProfileUnity by pointing to shell folders and getting those backgrounds synced before you cut them over to something like Windows 11 or AVD or Windows 365. Windows 11, speaking of that, prepare your base golden image in advance. Know the applications in use. We can do that with Stratosphere. Then think about how you're going to deliver those applications. Deliver them through installing them in the base image, installing them one-off on your desktops if that's what you're doing, delivering them through technologies that are kind of like FlexApp, or delivering them with how we feel the best technology out there to deliver the most dynamic application to follow that user anywhere going forward to help you with transformations. Not only now, when you make another change in a couple of years to another operating system version. They're already talking about Windows 12. Maybe you've decided certain users are right for AVD and you want to go back to Citrix. Maybe you want to go and burst scale some stuff into Omnissa. When you have all these things with Liquidware, they follow the user once and done. So it makes your transformation now easy. It makes it the next time easy too. Ensuring that your user data is available to make sure that folder redirects not only happen, the data migration happens in the background, but folder redirects automatically snap in. Make sure that that's done. We can automate that process. We talked about user authored data and making sure that you bring that over, but then continually monitor that desktop that you said you're going to deliver with the new platform, the new OS, is the best desktop that you've ever delivered. And if it's not, you can scale that and size that with the DEX data that you're going to learn from those desktops from Stratosphere UX and command control being able to support them. Let's talk about a few things happening. The time is ticking. Windows 10 end of standard support is upon us this year, and you're going to be paying a lot of money if you don't get your users over to have support. Running without support's a different story. You don't want to do that because of security holes that will be opened up in your environment in short order. We're at an inflection point. I pulled this data from StatCounter, and you may know what StatCounter is, but basically it monitors the overall web traffic in the world and what operating systems are there. And of course, there's other operating systems besides these. Linux is out there and Mac, but the prevalent one out there is Windows. And what portion of that? The inflection point just happened in June. And Windows 11 is going to pull ahead. Windows 11 is the blue one down there at the bottom, and it's coming up rapidly. So if you haven't migrated yet, you're not alone. Now, this counts home users too, but for enterprises, if you haven't migrated, it's loud and clear you're not alone, and you have time to get there. We're at about 50-50 right now, and we probably, in the time since they did June stats, and I pulled this the other day, but we're in July now. Of course, Windows 11 is probably pulled slightly ahead if the trajectory stays on track with that. And this doubles down on that message. Millions of Windows 10 devices haven't been updated. So, you know, when you're looking at only 50% migration rate, that's what you're going to get. Other things out there happening, IDC wrote a story here lately that AVD and Windows 365 are rapidly gaining ground. And, you know, the stalwarts have been Citrix and VMware, and now Omnissa, and those are still going to remain strong choices for many organizations. But you can't deny the fact that AVD and Windows 365 have become really something that you need to pay attention to. If you're not moving certain desktops there yet, you probably will be in short order. So those are desktops transformations, and you can't transform a desktop without transforming the apps. AppV's got a huge thing looming. These are not the only things. You know, you got certain versions of Office that are reaching end of life. We didn't even touch on those, but certain versions of Outlook and your email servers reaching end of life. And those things some of those things are things you can switch out in the back office, but others are going to affect your end users, and that's where we can come into play. So
you know, it's funny you mentioned that, Jason, because I was talking with a customer yesterday, and somebody hit me with something that I had not seen before, which is they were looking at the latest version of Office 2024, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, we'll just go through the standard measures of replacing our applications and do what we have to do." And this particular company was a publishing house, and oddly enough, they used Microsoft Publisher. And what I didn't realize, and what Microsoft has done, is they just got rid of Publisher. Publisher is no longer an application that they support. And in Office 2024, it's simply not there. So the customer came to me and said, "Well, hey, look, we've been a long time customer. We've been using ProU and Stratosphere for a very long time. And what we need to be able to do is have Office 2024 in the base image, and then we need to be able to have Publisher 2021 as a FlexApp. Is there any way you could meld those two things? Because everything else we've looked at said we can't do that." And the answer, of course, just like everything else, is yes. There is a very defined set of parameters that you have to put in place. Like, you have to make sure Office is part of the base image, and you have to make sure that you're using KMS. But other than that, the whole process is relatively seamless. And that's kind of the thing, is that Microsoft has zero problems upsetting the apple cart over time. And in many ways, that's why a lot of us are kind of behind the eight ball with this Windows 11 transition, is that, did anyone really like Windows 11 when it first came out? Does anyone really love Windows 11 now, with a lot of these controversial UI changes that they've made? And a lot of the customers I've talked to have said, "No, we don't. We haven't." And we were kind of playing chicken with Microsoft, waiting for them to offer more extended support for Windows 10, or say, "Hey, Windows 12 is around the corner. You get to skip it." Because in a lot of people's eyes, Windows 11 and Vista are synonymous. They're very, very similar. But the simple fact of the matter is, Microsoft is not going to dodge on this one. We simply have to deal with it, and we are going to give you the tools to make this much, much easier for you. In the case of ProU with Windows 10 to 11 migrations, in the case of FlexApp, where you're trying to recoup an application that they no longer support, like Publisher 2021, our job is to just make it easy. We are the easy button.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty neat that you mentioned Publisher. That was one of the things that we used prior to Liquidware for laying out some of the first ProfileUnity brochures, and I know why people use that. You know, there's the licensing cost was included, and some other things that's how some of these apps stay around. I mean, it's not uncommon for us to run into customers that have over 1,000 apps that they want to keep, that we've got to figure out and help them figure out a path forward. So AppV Server, and we'll touch on this a little bit later. We're going to jump to the demo here in a couple slides, but AppV Server is end of life. You know, they did say AppV was end of life, but AppV is going to stay around. So the sequencer, which is the packager, and the client's going to stay around. So you can keep those for certain use cases. We believe that it has its place even going forward. AppV Server, that's something that ProfileUnity can take the place of to deploy your Flex apps. There's a neat get out of jail free card with Windows 10 that I don't think anybody wants to use. So sidebar, if anybody knows what, I was thinking, I use sidebar, and that's an old journalism term, but we'll deviate for a second. If you move your Windows 10 experience over to Windows 365, you don't have to pay for extended support.
No.
Have you heard that, Matt?
Yes, I have.
But
Yep.
so you put a mess that's local now to a mess in the cloud.
It's
Well, just go to
true, but
Windows 11.
it's
Just
still, it begs the
right,
question, how do you get there? I mean,
right,
just giving
right,
somebody something without any kind of pain points whatsoever is wonderful, but you've given them no stepping stones to make the transition.
right, right.
So you can make the argument, oh, I could use something like the Microsoft user state migration tool. Yeah, how do you plug it in? How do you make that work inside of the cloud? It's an absolute mess. We are,
Right.
as of right
You're just
now,
delaying, yeah.
we're one of the only ways that you can physically get from A to B. So it's kind of interesting that it doesn't matter how you slice this up. If you're looking at doing an in-place upgrade, if you're looking at giving your client a new machine, if you're looking at taking advantage of that ability to go from physical to cloud and not have to worry about paying for extended support, it doesn't matter what way you choose. You need a migration platform.
Yeah.
You need a migration plan.
Yeah, there'll always be some reason to use XP, for example, but it's going to be for a specific app. If you're hanging on to Windows 10, the writing's on the wall. Just
Yeah.
go ahead and modernize your desktops. If you're using technology like Windows 365, you need to modernize. You need to modernize the OS. And maybe there's a specific reason you need to stay on Windows 10. And I realize those edge use cases, but go ahead
Yeah.
and move along. Let's get to this poll question, then we'll do the demo. Andrew's got a poll question he's going to put up. This is a reflection of what it'll be, what the actual one is here. So have you already migrated to Windows 11, or have you opted for extended support of Windows 10? Where are you?
What do
So
you
we'd
mean
love to hear from
hosts
you.
and panelists can't vote? What is this?
You've we gotta not taint the data. And it's also not fair because you keep Windows 10 copies around just for demo purposes, probably Windows
I
7 as
do.
well.
I have all kinds of stuff, but if you ask me what's on my primary machine
Right.
now, it's Windows 11, and I'm not gonna lie, I went kicking and screaming, but the easy thing for me was I run ProU, so it wasn't much of a headache to go from A
Yeah.
to B.
So we'll give everybody the second. But the faster you vote on this, the faster we're going to move the webinar along because we're stuck on this slide until you vote. Click on something, guys. Andrew can see when the percentage of how many people voted. So right now it's climbing to, I don't know, 50, 60. What is it, Andrew? Now 70. We're close.
Yeah,
One
we're
of our
creeping up to 70%.
one of our participants just mentioned, as long as folks aren't on Windows 7 or Vista, but you'd be surprised. I mean, I do run into customers from time to time. No one runs Vista because let's be honest,
Yep.
no one did. But I do run into customers time to time that still have some Windows 7 stuff out there, and they have an application that's mission critical that they can't let go.
Right.
Oh, somebody just asked a really good question. Are there any challenges moving profiles from FS Logics to ProfileUnity? I'm actually going to cover a little bit of that during the demo. So if you don't mind, I'm going to tackle that one in a few minutes.
Great. Let's see what the results are, Andrew. Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Already migrated 35%, planning to migrate. So there we are at the inflection point. Interesting, 47%.
We got another question in about migrating Citrix profile containers to ProfileUnity. I'll tackle that one as well during the demo.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Andrew, for that. That's great information to know, and right about where we have already said that the world probably is, close to it anyway.
I'm surprised. I would have thought more than 35% migrated. I expected at least 40 or 50.
Yeah, I would have too. All right, we're going to keep moving so we can get to the demo. And I've got a lot of slides, but when we cover stuff in the demo here shortly, I'm going to skip some of them. These are the things that we do with the two solutions they're going to see today. We transform Windows workspaces. That means we can help you rapidly onboard users to any platform you choose. We streamline profile management. And yes, we do work with FS Logics, and I believe Matt's going to show that, as he said. You get rid of roaming profiles. You can get rid of other point profile solutions and move to full user management. That goes between operating system versions. Those are usually almost always the breaking point. You can't go from Windows 10 to 11. With us, every time we look to see what the profile needs to be, and it works every time in seconds. So it's not a one-way path. It's not a migration tool like user state migration tool. So modernizing application delivery is the other thing you'll see with FlexApp. So you can easily replace app V You can easily continue to assign legacy apps with ProfileUnity and with AppV there. You can replace other solutions in the market. And then what you'll see between these two is really comprehensive user management. If you know of Avanti, if you know of AppSense and RES, this is the modern way to do all this today. And with the nuances of Entra ID, where you can use group policy preferences you can't use group policy preference any longer with that, but you can if you're on just AD, and having one single way to manage users across any platform, virtual, physical, or cloud, and across Citrix or Omnissa or Digen or fill in the blank, any way you deliver Windows, really any way you deliver Windows. That's a false promise of the competition. We really deliver this on any way you deliver Windows, even offline. Really enough said. Let's jump to the demo here, and Matt's going to show you this in action, the latest version of ProfileUnity and the core user management features.
All right, I have sent out my sharing request. And we are sharing my screen. All right, so let's jump into it. We are going to play around within my environment. My environment is, well, it's a mess. I'm running all kinds of weird stuff, and we're going to play with a bunch of that weird stuff today. But the big reason we're here is to talk about the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the looming Windows 10, 11 cutoff date. So what I'm going to start off with is what most of my customers have right now, which is a basic simple copy of Windows 10. This is my Windows 10 system that has been with me for many, many years. It's been upgraded many, many times. But the thing that has not changed is my profile. I have a very, very large profile, and you're going to see that as evident here in the fact that it takes about 9 whole seconds to load my profile. And we're doing so in conjunction with FlexApp, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But my profile is very, very heavy. So I have gigs and gigs and gigs of documents. I've got massive amount of stuff that I've been carting around with me for many, many years. I've got my things the way I like them. So I've got my desktop icons the way I like them, and I've got my huge amounts of data the way I like it. And that's kind of important to me because this is the way I work. Chaotic or not, this is how I function. So I have huge amounts of data that I need to have access to because I have access to a lot of things that I constantly need, like applications and documents and things like that. And on top of that, I have massive amounts of customization within my profile. So if I go to places that a lot of users don't go, like inside of the Windows registry, and if I look at places like HG Current Users software, you're going to find huge amounts of customization within this environment of lots and lots of different software that I have been using over the years. Anything from Inkscape to OpenOffice to God knows why I'd still have it in there, but Skype. And as a result, this data not only needs to stay with me, it needs to stay corruption free. So what we do with ProfileUnity is we don't just have one profile solution. There is no one size fits all mechanism for everything. We have a series of profile solutions that are designed to interoperate and interlink with other profile solutions. So a couple of the gentlemen out there asked earlier, well, what do you do if you have FS Logics? Do you work with that? Or what if you have Citrix UPM or UEM or VUEV or roaming user profiles if you're really stuck in the Stone Age? Any of those things are compatible with ProfileUnity. So let's talk about why. So what I have here is a corruption-free, agnostic, hardened, and fault-tolerant version of the Windows profile. And if I start looking behind the scenes at the actual format of this profile, this profile is stored for me on the network. So if I go to my network share, and if I go to ProfileUnity profiles Mac, this is my profile that gets stored. You can see that there's a few different pieces of my profile that are here. I have my redirected folders, which Jason mentioned is really important because if I need to migrate data from my system to a intermediary place so I can get it when I'm switching between different operating systems or different platforms, that's the way to do it. I have portability, which is really the star of the show. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I have something called profile disk, which is very, very similar to an FS Logics disk, where I can use it instead of, in place of, I can migrate to it instead. It's really just a VHDX copy of my entire profile. And then I have something weird here. I have this Teams VHD. What's going on there? Well, like I said, there is no one size fits all to profile migration and management, and we custom tailor these things depending on the client. So some of my clients will say, well, hey, Matt, I don't want a full profile disk of everything that the client has or everything that my client has in the VHDX. Maybe I just want Teams. Maybe I just want Outlook inside of a VHDX. Maybe I want that multi-session so I can use it on 2 or 3 machines at once. It doesn't matter. We support all of those things at the same time. Portability is doing a good bulk of the work. So what portability is this is our agnostic, hardened, and fault-tolerant version of a profile capture. And what it's doing is it's saying, okay, I'm going to go after the profile, and most of this profile is generic. I can run it on any version of Windows. 5% of it is very specific. So you can see these little folders I have for different operating systems that their data needs to be segregated from everybody else. But all this stuff in the root is generic. I can apply this to any version of Windows anywhere and it will work. And what these are CRC'd, MD5 hashed, corruption detect checks and portions of each part of my profile. So each one of these represents a different section of my profile that's been put through this multi-stage corruption detection engine. And what we're doing here is, if you notice, the size is really, really tiny. And this is because we're not going after caches. So your Chrome, your Firefox, your Java caches are left behind because caches can be rebuilt, but your user data, your intellectual property, that can't be rebuilt. So what we're doing is going after that core data. Now, when I do this, we usually do it on login and log out. And then periodically through the day, we have the ability to also solve this data. So the questions that came up of, hey, can you interoperate with FSLogix? Yes, because when we're capturing profile data, either from FSLogix or migrating to something else, I'm doing so by injecting it log on and saving it log off. So FSLogix runs in the middle and we run perfectly fine alongside of them. Or if you're doing UEM or UEV or UPM or any of those products, it's exactly the same thing. And the reason I can say this with such certainty is because I've done it many thousands of times with many, many organizations, because we are designed to interoperate with other profile solutions and say, hey, if you want to move to something easier, more agnostic, that will allow you to move to a new version of Windows, this is how you do it. Now, I did say I could prove that. So inside of my environment, I actually have a whole bunch of FSLogix profiles that I use on a fairly consistent basis. Some of these were used a couple of months ago. And the reason I do this is that in some of my longer demos, what I'll do is I'll load up an FSLogix disk, I'll log in with ProfileUnity, and then halfway through the session, I'll just rip the disk out and destroy it in the most evil of ways by killing the machine, deleting the disk. And I can log back in, and ProfileUnity will rehydrate and rebuild that disk. So it's a really fun demo that I do. If you get a chance to have a demo with me afterwards and you want to see that, let me know, because it takes about an extra 5 minutes, but it is fun to see a full FSLogix disk get rehydrated by ProfileUnity. Anyway, the reason we're here is to facilitate a migration. So as you can see, I'm doing my Windows 10 system. I've got all my stuff. I've also got huge amounts of Flex apps mounted to the system. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. But remember that these Flex apps, just like my profile, are agnostic as well. So as I move from Windows 10 to Windows 11, do I need to recapture all of these things? Do I need to rebuild my entire Flex app repository just for the sake of the new operating system? The answer is no, absolutely not. In fact, these apps are compatible with any variant of Windows that's newer than what I'm dealing with. So as I run through these applications, and I've chosen a whole bunch of crazy ones, remember that I'm on a Windows 10 capture platform. So I'm capturing these things in a packaging console that is Windows 10. So as I go from Server 2016, 2019, 2022, 2025, Windows 11, Windows 11 AVD, Windows 10 AVD, Windows 365, all of those are different operating systems, and every single one of my Flex apps is going to work correctly in the scope of every one of those operating systems. So as you go through this, just think in mind when you've been used to AppV and MSIX, and you have to constantly repackage things for different versions of Windows, or if you did things through, God forbid, FinApp, and you still have to do that, we do not have that problem. So just to give myself an extra hoop to jump through, I'm going to leave this VM open, and we're going to do a live migration with live data into Windows 11. So I'm going to fire up my Windows 11 system, and we're going to get a nice fresh one because this is non-persistent, because it wouldn't be fun if this were a persistent system. That would be way too easy. So we're going to see what happens the first time I log into a brand new Windows 11 system for me. So we can pretend that I've got my Windows 10 laptop and my Windows 11 laptop open at the same time, which is, again, a little bit tricky for most solutions to deal with. But as I mentioned before, we don't care. We are the Switzerland of profile management companies. So you can see that my ProfileUnity software fires up. We've got my portability settings fire up. You can see it's on the latest version. Everybody's nice and happy. It's going to take about 9 or 10 seconds to do a full migration. And then I get my brand new squeaky clean copy of Windows 11. And you can see that everything loads up nice and fast, which is pretty good. I've only given myself quad cores and 4 gigs of RAM, but what's going on here? What's this little screen? Well, it's still Microsoft. Microsoft is Microsoft. This is a new operating system after all. It's never seen me before. So it's asking me about my privacy settings for my device. Now, what's great is that especially if you have Enter ID or anything like that, I can use ProfileUnity to make this kind of stuff go away for the user. Very, very fun part is that if you're using these cloud-based control mechanisms, you lose a lot of functionality. We can help you bring that back. And I'm going to show you how we do that in a moment. So I'm going to go and select all my fun stuff. I'm going to ignore Microsoft Teams. And hey, look at this. This looks really nice. This looks really comfortable. My start menu is on the left-hand side, the way it's originally intended. All my icons are in exactly the same place. And if I go into places like my documents the way I did before, all of my stuff is here. If I go really into the bowels of the operating system and start doing like regedit stuff, I'm going to go and see that all the things I saw in my Windows 10 system were automatically migrated for me. We did all of this in 9 seconds. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? So what we also have is all my FlexApp. So I know we're going to talk about FlexApp a little bit later, but all the huge amounts of applications that I was working with automatically came over and did everything for me. The big question, though, is how did I do this? How difficult is it to move from one platform to another with something like ProfileUnity? And the answer is as easy as it was for me as a user to do it. So I have a ProfileUnity environment set up. I actually have a little web page for it right now. And what winds up happening is I need only a handful of things for this to work. I need a ProfileUnity console, which the ProfileUnity console is going to be any modern version of Windows Server 2016 and up. And I'm going to download the software onto it and simply run it. And that's it. And when I do that and I run ProfileUnity for the first time, it's going to give me this little window for guided configuration. It's going to ask me a series of questions. It's going to say, hey, what do you want to do? And most of the time, what I want to do is simply migrate things as a desktop. If I want to integrate directly with FlexApp, we have a template for that. If you want to integrate directly with any other profile platform, this template right here is going to do that. And then what I do is I say, all right, I only have a couple of answers or a couple of questions that I need to answer. First, I want to say, where do I want to store this user's profile as part of the migration? So I give it a server, path, and a username. If you want to use DFS aliases or namespace coupled with replication, you want to use SMB3 CAFS. If you want to use cloud, guess what? We support all of those things. And then it says, well, I'd really like to use a GPO to go and deploy this out. If you don't have that, don't worry about it. We have other ways of deploying, but GPO makes things really easy because I can select my GPO, I can select my organizational unit, I click Run GPO integration, and this automatically installs the ProfileUnity agent on any systems that I want. And then it says, all right, great. Where do you want to keep that agent that we're going to run? And normally I recommend the AD netlog on share because it's replicated times however many DCs you have, especially if you have DCs in the cloud. This works great. And then I click finish and I am done. I now have a complete from scratch template with all the things that I care about inside of it. And what's great is Jason's mentioned how he and I have been working together for the better part of 18 years. Well, guess what? ProfileUnity has been around for even longer than that. And we've been learning and working with Microsoft Profiles for the better part of a quarter century, which means that all of the templates have all this stuff built in to automatically grab all the things that I need for my profile to function and migrate from one version of Windows to another. So that's all you have to do. If all you care about is migration, run the template, let it migrate, let it do its work, and you're done. That's all you need to do. But Jason mentioned before. There's a lot of other things we can do with the ProfileUnity interface.
And speaking of that, I think is a good time for this question, Matt. Just a second.
Yeah, sure.
Paul is asking, can ProfileUnity help enforce new updated Windows 11 group policies and security configurations across enterprise endpoints without requiring re-imaging? That's the
Perfect
question.
time.
Yep. Yeah.
So that was the segue of segues, if I've ever heard one. The short answer is yes. Now, if you want to use the native ProfileUnity modules to do things, they're very simple. So if you want to get rid of, for example, login scripts and use our interface to go through these, that you're going to be very happy with that. We're parallel execution, so all this thing is going to happen exponentially faster than both GPO or scripting. But to Jason's point, a lot of our clients are kind of stumbling with this hybrid AD intra solutions that they're mentioning and working with. So what do they do? And the answer is we have the ability to import the existing AD policies you have and deploy them with ProU without AD. And let me give you an example. So let's say I'm still working with an older version of Office, Office 2016, and I want to import that policy from my AD into ProfileUnity and have it management. So now I have access to the filter logic engine, which is a very robust way of saying who gets what under what conditions. I have descriptions, and I can take my existing GPO and say, hey, just import it. And by doing that, I now have access to all of my existing GPO stuff. And I could say, even though I don't have GPO anymore, or even though I'm moving away from GPO, I still have ProfileUnity, which gives me a faster way to deploy it, B, a faster login for the user, C, an easier way to say, can I coordinate off who gets what, and D, something that works just like everything else, cross-platform. So we're giving you a whole lot more than just a profile management system. This is an environment management system. It's designed to say I can manage everything for the user from the profile all the way down to the smallest setting. Jason, I'm going to turn things back over to you.
Thanks, Matt. That was a great demo. We're going to do a couple of transition slides, and then we're going to jump back into demo again because I know people tend to rather see it in action. Share out the right screen here, and it's just a couple of slides to level set us on the FlexApp side. Modernizing application delivery is the other thing in the transformation that we're discussing today. And with that FlexApp, we can replace AVD. We can replace any other similar solution in the market with industry-leading features. Quite frankly, some of these people are copying features that we have had for 2 or 3 years and making it look like innovation. When if you look at our roadmap, or not our roadmap, but our historical innovation that we've had, and I'll show that in a few screens, you'll see we've long led and we're doing things out there that currently that they haven't done, and we're doing them in a much more streamlined way. We deliver, and we're the first to deliver applications on demand with something called click to layer. We don't call it layering anymore because we're not really layering in that, but it is on demand applications. And with all these technologies, we're reducing base image complexity, because when you start building up images just to deliver apps, all that can be avoided by delivering applications just in time, the way that you can through FlexApp. You can centrally update the apps. You can edit existing app packages, another innovation that we have and have had for many years, without the need to repackage the apps totally from scratch. And you can automate the app packaging. Matt's going to show you a little bit about the automation today. You can optionally leverage other deployment methods. We have a format known as FlexApp 1 that takes the common FlexApp format and makes it into an alternative format. It's right for certain use cases. If you want to share an app by any means necessary, FlexApp 1 is the way to do it. If you wanted to deploy those apps through Microsoft Intune, rather than using the management console that Matt just showed you, you can do that with FlexApp. You can even deploy it with any other software deployment method. And those apps are not installed to the desktop. They are actually attached to the desktop. And they can even work offline, because those packages can go offline and not be installed. And I'll show you what I mean in this illustration here. Usually when you install an application on the left side, this is what you get. You can start installing. Anyone on this call I know is running a Windows installer at some point to install an application, and you start seeing how it's unpackaging things from a common MSI format usually, or a homegrown format, and you have to put them in the right locations, and it starts to put them where it needs to, where they need to be in the system. In the system folder, other areas, program data, registry, all that becomes really tattooed with what that application needs and is put there, whether it's a file or a registry key. And yes, they have uninstallers, but they're not always clean. Maybe they think it's helpful to leave some files behind in case you reinstall them someday, and it's not always helpful. Maybe there's rogue services that continue to run or something of that nature, and that's not helpful either if they've not uninstalled services. Cleanly having an application come into an environment and forever being gone in the environment is the FlexApp way of doing things. It does not contribute to Windows rot, slowing down a Windows machine over time. FlexApp attaches the application. It's basically going to end up being on a VHDX that's portable. And that VHDX can reside on the network, be cached down to the endpoint, or it can be placed on the endpoint, and that's where you get your offline capability. Take these apps with you on the go with no connection, and then updated when you do sync back up. So all those same areas of Windows are leveraged, and when you go looking for the files to be there and the registry keys to be there, they look like they're there, but they're not there. When the service is turned off, they disappear as if they were a ghost because they are not there. They're on the VHDX, and that's the magic of FlexApp, making them look like they're there, perform that they're there. Other applications that need plugins and rely on other applications, file type associations, context menus that you can right click on things and do things to where that app looks so native that the operating system doesn't know it. Other applications do not realize it because they're where they need to be. That's FlexApp. And that's why we have a very incredibly high compatibility rate of the type of applications that this can be done. Some of our customers have done 100% of the applications that they wish to do with FlexApp, and others, maybe you run into a 95% compatibility rating, and we still give you other ways to deliver those applications. So the highest in the industry. And that's what you're about to see in the demo today. Matt, you want to take it back from here?
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to look at a few different things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump back into my Windows 11 system because there's a number of applications that I want to cover. So Jason mentioned high compatibility rates, and the biggest thing we do is we work with weird stuff. So if you have applications that have right-click context associations, and I now have to click show more options if I'm in Windows 11, but if I have those right-click context associations, those will work. If I have device drivers, if I have system services, if I have COM plus DCOM objects, if I have Java, which everyone loves Java because that's never a pain having multiple versions on the same system, or FileZilla with its millions of updates that I have to deal with, or Google Chrome, which updates itself on an absolute constant basis and eats up all of my RAM because that's what Google Chrome loves to do. All of these things simply just function. So even if I do things like run a bunch of my geek tools like WinSCP, WinRAR, let's get you out of the way. Yes, I know you're doing a scan. WinDirStat, VLC Media Player, both skinned and unskinned. TerraCopy, which replaces the Windows copy handler. So that's some really deep ingrained operating system functionality. PuttyGen, Putty, PSFTP, Notepad++, Pageant, Paint.net, PZip. And I'm just ripping through these applications on a modern version of Windows 10 that only has 4 virtual cores and 4 gigs of RAM. So again, we're not consuming huge amounts of resources. We have an amazing compatibility rate. And essentially what we're creating is portable applications. You go to anywhere you want to go, you log in, all your applications are simply going to be linked to the operating system. Now, much like before, the big question then becomes, how do I do that? How does that exactly work? So I'm going to show you a couple different ways to go and convert your applications into FlexApps. The first thing we're going to show you is the manual way, the way that no one really likes to do. But we're going to show you anyway, just so you get to see, quote unquote, how the sausage is made. So I'm going to log into my FlexApp packaging console, which is a fairly boring machine, if I'm being honest, because it's just a base clean copy of whatever operating system you're working with. In this case, I'm working with just Windows 10. And Jason, we did say this was a live demo. We're running without a net. So when I type in my password incorrectly, you can see it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fire up the FlexApp packaging console, and it's going to want to talk to my ProfileUnity console, that guy we talked to a little bit before. So I'm going to go log into that right now, tell it where it is, give it my Active Directory user ID and password, or my Entra ID username and password, and I'm going to go log into the system. And you can see that I have pages of flex apps of stuff that I have been capturing for years. So if you want to know about compatibility, this is a great list because you can see all kinds of crazy stuff in here. Strange third-party software from years ago. We have Visual Studio, way tons of different versions in there. Visual Studio Code, Thunderbird, Office, many, many different versions of Office, Snagit, Sharix, Slack, QBitTorrent, all kinds of crazy applications. So let's start with something easy. Let's start with an easy application so you can see how this entire process works. So the first thing we're going to do is go over to my ProfileUnity repository where I have all kinds of different applications that I can go and grab. And I'm going to go grab an old version of FileZilla. I'm getting an old version on purpose because this guy has some secrets and surprises in store for me. Most notably, it's got, like in this case, almost 4 years worth of updates that has to go and take care of. So I'm going to say, okay, let's go create that Flex app. What do I need to do? Well, I need to give it a name. We'll call this, I don't know, FileZilla. And that sounds fun. We'll give it today's date. So we'll call it FileZilla 724. I can give it a package version. We'll call this 1.0 if that's what it is. It can be really whatever I want. I can give it a description, and now I need to tell it where the installer is located. And this one is on my desktop. So it's on C users Matt desktop. And I say there's FileZilla. Now it needs to know where do I actually put this thing? And I'm going to put it with my other Flex apps, which are right here. And as you can see, I have lots and lots and lots of flex apps. I have subdirectories with even more flex apps in it. And I'm just going to simply give it that directory name. And now if I want to, Jason mentioned we can do FlexApp 1, which is really great if you're deploying FlexApp to laptops or any network disconnected devices. I'm going to make a FlexApp and a FlexApp 1 at the same time. Capture mode is usually high compatibility. Size is usually 3 times the size of the application payload. FileZilla is never going to get bigger than a gig, so I'm going to make this 3 gigs. Compression is useful if you have a slow network or storage. I don't. And expandable storage is always what I recommend because that is thin provisioning. And all I need to do is click create. And as soon as I do that, if I go by my deep modified, you're going to find this little FileZilla directory is created and a brand new VHDX was built for me. And now what we're doing is FlexApp is going to automatically launch the application installer. And if it's in MSIX silent mode, it'll do that for me. And it's going to capture anything that I do as part of this installation. So I'm just going to install it, la-da-da, everything's cool. And I click launch. Now, remember, I said that there were some fun surprises that this has in store for me, like 4 years worth of updates that it just cataloged. So what do? And the answer is you just continue on as normal and you're going to be fine. So I click on install new version, and this is going to install over everything I just did. But wait, what's that? Everything's working just fine. If I go to help about, we can see that I am the absolute latest version of FileZilla, including 4 years worth of updates. And we did all of that within around 30 seconds. So I can click finish, and now I have all kinds of options that are available to me. I have a package editor. I can make changes. I can go and duplicate packages. I can go and add additional installations in there. I can create FlexApp 1s, and all of this stuff is mind-numbingly fast. So if you're used to doing things the old way with AppV or MSIX or ThinApp, or if you've used some of our competitor products, this is going to be a huge breath of fresh air because the entire process of gathering things does not require an engineer. I only need to be somebody who knows how to run a setup exe, somebody who knows how to run an installer. And if you can do that, you can create a Flex app. But if things are that simple, can't it be automated? Can it be easier than this? Isn't there a way to say, I just want something else to go and get my Flex apps for me? Well, that's actually a really good question to ask. And in fact, we have something that is right up your alley called FlexApp Packaging Automation. And the way that packaging automation works, it says, if Flex apps are so easy, why can't I have a single system called a parent? And this parent basically contains a list of all the applications that I want to capture. And in this case, we're just going to do that in a CSV format. So you can see here, I have the CSV full of all kinds of applications. Now, this can be my package repository. So this can be my wherever I keep my software, my P drive, whatever. Or it can be a repository service. So if you want to use Winget, if you want to use Chocolatey, which is what I'm using here, if you want to use any of these things, they simply just work. And I've done this more than a few times. In fact, if we take a look inside of my library, we're going to see this exact list of applications has been captured for me already. So if I go into my Flex apps and if I go into this area called FPA, all of these things were captured for me automatically by the FlexApp Packaging Console's FPA. Why? Why did we do this? Well, it's currently in beta right now, but we're working on something called the FlexApp Library, where we host applications for you. So if you're in the middle of a POC and you want to try out the top 100 applications in the world, guess what? We already have those built. And this means the heavy applications that most people use are going to be in here. So this isn't just open source stuff. If you want Office Professional Plus, it's in there. If you want Teams, it's in there. If you want OneDrive or Power BI, or VLC or Visual Studio Code. All of these things are in there. And not only do we capture them, we test them against everything. So if you want precompiled applications, if you want us to do the heavy lifting for you with your standard apps, guess what? We already do that. Well, great. Why am I showing you this? Because not only does FPA do all this work for me, it also handles updates. So if I say simply, hey, rerun your job, check the repository to see if any of these applications have updates, it will go and package all the updates for me automatically. So right now it's going through that entire repository and saying, has any vendor updated their application since the last time I went and did this? And I usually do this on a monthly basis. So you can see a lot of these are the same version. 7-zip hasn't been updated in a little while. AMP or Audacity haven't been updated in a little while. But you know what has? Is Adobe Reader, AutoHotkey Portable, Brave, which is a really nice browser if you've never used it, Azure Data Studio, CC Cleaner. So this is doing all the heavy lifting for me to say, I'm going to handle your updates for you. I'm going to go out, I'm going to grab those, I'm going to automatically make sure that those are taken care of. And then what do you do about testing? Well, once I've got the Flex app, all of this data simply gets forwarded into my ProfileUnity console. So if I go to my inventory management of my Flex apps, look at all this stuff. These are all the things that I just created. And if I want to take a look at the last time I went and created an update to these packages, all I have to do is click on it. And I have updates. Hey, that's the one that we just did. That's FileZilla. But I have yesterday's updates for all these applications are still in there. So now what I can go and do is say, hey, I want to go and assign this to my testing team. So I create a filter for my testing team and I say, okay, I'm now going to go in my configuration. I'm going to go into my Flex apps. I'm going to add a new rule. I'm going to choose the filter for my testing team. And I'm simply going to drag and drop the application that I want them to go and test. So now my application tester simply logs into their machine. They get the latest version of the application that we automatically package for them. And I just blast them a quick email. Hey, new version of FileZilla coming your way. Test it, give me the rubber stamp. And as soon as you've tested it, we can say that it's now cleared for operation with our user base. Think about how that completely streamlined the application packaging process. I am no longer going through the let me reimage a machine and give you something clean and you install it and you test it and you go through the test plan and then eventually the packaging team gets it and then they go through that and they give it to the SCCM team and they get it and go through that and then we stage it through multiple users. Think about all the steps we're eliminating. We're saying, nah, just going to have an automation system go and get me the latest update. It's going to make the package for me. It's going to let me go and provision it automatically. It's going to let my application testers tell me very easily what's right and wrong. And then I drag and drop it to a user. We have eliminated 50 steps of application packaging and deployment. And we've done it in such a way that not only is it agnostic, not only is it portable, but it can do it on any version of Windows that we want. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the true beauty of ProfileUnity and FlexApp. It's not just about functionality. It's about making things easier, cheaper, and more importantly, more flexible for each and every user that you work with on a daily basis. Jason, that is all the demos I have today. I'm going to turn things back over to you to close us out.
Great demo. You
Thank you,
could have
sir.
seen Slideware today, or you could have seen the real thing, and you saw the real thing with Matt. And you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say we'd love to meet with any of you, and we've got a few more slides to go here. We'd love to share with you, but we'd love to meet with any of you, and you can email us at info@liquidware.com, and we can have a call like this and show you custom things in there, like, oh, I wish you would have gone deeper here or there, or we've got a unique situation. Info@Liquidware, and we'll reach back out to you probably today, but at least in the next 24 hours or so, and we'll say, hey, we would be glad to have a quick Teams call with you, or however you'd like to do it, and show this to you directly. I mentioned yeah, go ahead,
Jason, real quick, we have a whole bunch of Q&A. What I'm going to let you do is get through the rest of these slides, and I'm going to hit all of these at the end to make sure that anybody who wants their questions answered will absolutely get their questions answered.
So I mentioned industry first. I didn't want to miss out here to show you the leadership that we have in here, and there's things on our roadmap that are not on here that you'll see shortly. So if you think you've seen innovation out of us and you think so and so is going to catch up in the market, they're not, because we've got more goodness coming that we'd love to tell you about as soon as we can tell you about it. Some of it's going to be coming out in the next couple months, and so if you're a FlexApp customer, know that you are a ProfileUnity customer. You have picked the leader in this industry. While other solutions have become stale and fail to lead, we have. And I'm not going to go through each one of these, but we were first to market with everything you see here on the screen. So these are the things that we showed you today, just as a summary. How to transform your Windows workspace, streamline your profile management while you're doing it, modernize your application delivery, keep some of the legacy solutions in there. We can help you deploy AppVs. We didn't get to that today yet in the ProfileUnity section, but we can do that. Take the place of AppV server, help you deploy some of these other things that are out there while you were modernizing your applications very quickly with FlexApp. And then the comprehensive user management, if you're looking for a replacement for that, and this market has become really heated up again because of the issues of not being able to use group policy preferences in one single solution across everything with Entra ID and others, we'd love to talk to you about that. If you'd like to gauge where you are in the industry across our solutions, this is something new. On our homepage, you can look at our homepage, liquidware.com, and we have a digital workspace maturity framework. See how far along you are on that journey. And yeah, we gauge it against the solutions that we offer with the ones that you saw on that first cover slide that we had with all 4 of our solutions. But we're actually going to give you a good score if you're using some of our competitors too, because that means that you are really filling in the blanks there in a good way. It'll give you a score once you're done, and it'll give you an assessment whether you're leading edge or you're just starting to employ some of the solutions that you saw today and the DEX solutions that are out there. So give that a look. It's a free, like 5-minute assessment you would go through, and you'll get a score there that you can share across your team. Here's a link to that, and you can even do it on your phone. So if you want to take a quick glance at this barcode, you're able to bring that up on your phone and do it. If not, we can try to put that URL also in the window, in the chat window, so you can click on that if you're on your PC. If you want to make 25 bucks real quick, here's a way to do it. Peer Insights have our solutions out there, not just ProfileUnity and FlexApp, but the other ones too. Command Control, Stratosphere. So we are currently working with Gartner that there's a $25 gift card incentive for filling out at least one of these. So it only takes a few minutes of your time to do one of these, 10 minutes, and you'll have a $25 gift card to Amazon to use however you choose. That's 2 barcodes that's going to get you there. If you can't get those, just go to Gartner Peer Insights via your favorite search engine and look up Liquidware, fill out one of those assessments, and rate us according to how you honestly feel. You can try FlexApp right now if you wish to. So this is a good takeaway. We've got several prepackaged FlexApp applications out there in that dynamic format. You don't have to install the packaging engine or anything. Literally go over there and download something like Slack in seconds and be testing it. Double click on it. You may have to give it a whitelist on Windows Defender, but it'll run and you'll see how this magic works. And there's a few files on there. That's a barcode that'll get you to that area to take action. We're giving that Aura Ring away today. Andrew, would you like to tell them how that's going to happen?
Sure, we can get into it right now. So what we did was put all your names into that virtual box and we shook it up, and our winner is Tom Muckus. Congratulations, Tom. Be sure to keep an eye on your inbox for a follow-up email with more details.
Congratulations, Tom. We're going to give away some other cool things coming up here soon. Much in demand gaming console, and some other things. So keep attending our webinars and you'll see some of those. Let's take some of the Q&As today.
Oh, he's got some good ones too. I really love the customer interaction. This is great. So first, Mr. Freeman is asking, is there no limit to the number of applications that you can load via FlexApp? So via FlexApp, no. Via Windows, yes. So what we do is in Q&A, we test with 300 plus. In an actual customer scenario, the largest number of applications that I've ever seen deployed to a single system is 800. And I want you to think about that for a second, because the way Flex apps work is they act like they're natively installed, they run like they're natively installed. So it'd be the exact same thing as if you manually installed 800 applications onto Windows. And how would that operating system work? And the answer is not great. But again, it still hung in there, it still stood up, all the applications still run the way that they're supposed to. But the real limitations are going to be the operating system and not FlexApp. So again, all the standard laws of physics still apply. We're not bending how the OS works. We're simply giving it a much more efficient IO path and giving it access to instant applications. Second, from Paul, is saying, does FlexApp need to integrate with other workspace intelligence tools to provide real-time visibility into app data or data sprawl to help shape an organization's data hygiene initiatives? And this is not a pre-canned question. Paul just wrote it out really, really well. And the short answer is no, but. So we have reporting built into ProfileUnity by default that will help you manage who has the applications, what applications are being deployed, and things like that. I would argue that the most obvious choice where it came to visibility on app and data sprawl would be our sister tool, Stratosphere. That is going to be the best choice, because obviously the two tools are designed in lockstep with each other. The tools are designed to work with each other. Obviously, it's got some FlexApp centric reports built in there already, because our company makes both products. So that would personally be my choice. But that being said, I keep using the phrase "we are Switzerland," and that applies to this as well. So if you're looking for app or data sprawl, or if you want to shape your hygiene initiatives, all of the standard application tools that you use to do this are still applicable, because Flex apps will show up inside of add remove programs, and inventory scan tools, security scan tools, things like that will pick them up. In fact, the only difference between a natively installed application and a FlexApp application will be inside of add remove program files. You'll find a parentheses FlexApp parentheses identifier, so you can physically tell the difference between a FlexApp and a non-FlexApp application, which means any tool that's out there that's designed to do those things will work with us. We do provide some stuff out of the box. We have some seriously expanded tool sets if you're looking to utilize the tool sets from the company who makes the product for the best possible experience. And next up, we have Mr. Ken Adams. And he asked, what if an application is not a standalone app? Maybe it integrates with Outlook, maybe it integrates with something else. And that is an excellent question. So Jason, I'm going to share my screen back out for a second,
Yep.
if you don't mind, because I'm going to talk about some of the most common stuff that I see when it comes to that kind of thing. And usually what I see more often than not is things that integrate with tools like Office. So Office plugins are everywhere. There's thousands of them. And you'll notice that inside of my packaging console snapshots, I have all these different versions of the FPC. But what I also have is a version of Office 365. Why would I have that? For that exact reason. So if I put the application in question into the FlexApp packaging console, when I go and capture my plugin or my add-in or anything else, that will be its own separate FlexApp. So now I can say, all right, even if the version of Office changes, even if my operating system changes, my platform changes, that plugin is now still its own separate entity. And unlike other tools, I don't have to go and define dependencies. Why? Well, because we execute in parallel. So if I have a plugin that needs another application to run, normally I have to say, well, I have to load this app first before I load this plugin. FlexApp does all that for you. So you don't have to mess with dependencies. You don't have to mess with any of that stuff. Simply put the app in the FPC, capture whatever the application is, even if it's not standalone, deploy it as you were, and then you'll be fine. And that, I believe, is all the questions that we have. Jason, I'm going to turn it back over to you to close us out.
Thanks. And I'll be glad to call on Andrew if you want to close us out, Andrew. Summarize anything.
Sure thing. So first of all, a big thank you to our panelists. That was just amazing conversation, amazing discussions. Thank you for that. And as a reminder, a recording of this session will be sent to your inbox. So, and of course, thank you to everyone who joined us. We appreciate your time and hope you found the session valuable.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.